Greetings, everyone. This is Brian J.T. Watts here with another episode of Come Together. Very excited about tonight's episode. Got some good stuff for you. So definitely want you to stay tuned. After the commercial and the opening, we'll be talking to Randy Preston. So hold on to your seats, and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Tawana here, full time entrepreneur, full time mom. I'm here to tell you that having Brian, or should I say Mr. Wise, as a resource for my son throughout his high school years has been extremely instrumental in making sure he got and stayed scholarship ready. Even now, as a freshman in college, my son knows that Mr. Watts is just a call away. So you want someone in your child's life that has the experience that Brian brings. You want someone who has the relatability factor that Brian brings. You need someone like this on your child's team. It takes a village, and it is great to have Mr. Watts as a part of your village.
This is the greatest game of telephone that has ever been played. Someone said the black man doesn't raise his kids or care for his family, and that message is still being told to everyone today. They even have us saying,
"We are not a monolith. We have various opinions and thoughts. We are much more than what we are portrayed to be by the media.
even when we are the victims of injustice, we are still portrayed as the perpetrators. When it comes to the black man, there is an intentional plan to discredit the past, arrest the present, and destroy the future.
Something must be done, but nothing will work until we come together.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so glad to have you here today. I am here with Randy Preston. I just met this guy a few weeks ago, and I was just impressed. You know, our show is all about exposing positive black men, and just after some time of conversation, I realized that he was indeed one of those. So I wanted to have him on the show to expose him to y'all, let you know a little bit about him. And as you know, because we don't get a lot of good press, a lot of good information, that's what this show is for, to let you know that there are great black men out here doing their thing, working every day, providing, using their talents to do different things to help our community. And so we have this brother on here today. So Randy, how you doing?
I'm well, brother. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your platform today. I appreciate the opportunity.
No doubt. No doubt. You see, now you got me. I don't ever put my mic and stuff in the frame, and so I'm like, I need to start doing that now because it looks really good.
Oh, it looks professional. Okay, I remember. I'm just doing it because I'm too lazy to turn my mic up too loud. So
everybody keeps telling me that I need to do it, but I always forget. So I mean, I have it. I just don't do it. But you know, you got me. I'm feeling like I'm not in the studio though, so I don't have my mic on. But
right. I mean, and this mic, my boy, he put it together for me.
Okay.
It's a mod of a very, very nice mic. So we can talk about that off.
Right.
When we get off this,
better be in the screen.
I'm hip, right? Yeah. No, he's legitimate. He's legitimate, and I can share some information with you because it's a beautiful mic, man. All my recording I do with this.
All right, so I won't put my Amazon mic on here then.
No. Go ahead, put your Amazon mic.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself, about your history, how you got to this point. You know, what you did in your early years. Give us a little history.
Sure. I am the child of a serving family. My mother is a teacher. My father is a pastor. We grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, so we share that, I believe, that experience. As a result of that, we moved a lot as a kid. You know, when I was a child, we moved to England when I was 6 years old. And so I did all my education until I was through high school in good old Britain. That was interesting. England in the 80s was a very interesting place for a black child, or by black children. I was there with my siblings and my parents, and so it was definitely something different. When I was 16, my parents my dad accepted a call to Zimbabwe to work with the Eastern Africa division there of the Seventh-day Adventists. And so my parents were like, well, we've got this idea. We want to go to Africa. We're thinking about going to Zimbabwe. What do y'all think? I'm like, do you know us? Like, we're Africa, we're going. So
Wow.
I was excited, man. I was really stoked to be there. I was 16 and I'd already finished school in England. When you're 16, when you're 15, actually, at least when I was in school there a while ago, at 15 years old, you could say, I'm done. I'm going to get a job and start working. And they were okay with that. So by pretty much the age of 16, most people have taken their high school equivalency exams.
Sure.
And I had done those. And so I was just like, my parents like, well, you want to go to the college, to the States? I was like, no, I want to go to Kenya, because that was where the school was where my siblings were going to go. So
Okay.
we went to Kenya. And so I lived in Kenya for a year. It was amazing. It was an amazing year. I made some lifelong friends that I still have. I did that in England, but Kenya was out of this world, man. We traveled to, I think, 5 or 6 different other African countries when I was there. It was amazing. It was amazing. We were in Rwanda right before the genocide. We were in Rwanda in like 89. It was such a beautiful place, man. We were in South Africa. I was in South Africa before apartheid was dismantled. My mother is very light. My father is very dark. And when we were in South Africa, we were denied access to places
Right.
because people were like, "Oh no, you're black," and then we would talk to them. "Oh, you're American. No, you can come in." We were like, "Nah, we're good. We're good. We're not coming in."
Right.
It was a trip, man. It was really a trip to see. I'll never forget walking in to one of the bedrooms in the house we were staying in Johannesburg, and I was just going to pick something up, and I turned the light on. My dad's in there. He's crying. I'm like, whoa. I was like, did something happen? Like, I thought somebody died at home or something. I didn't know what went on. He said, no, sit down on the bed. I sat on the bed. He says, I'm crying because when I was a child in Richmond, Virginia in the 1940s and 50s, I remember feeling the same way
Wow.
that I feel here in South Africa in apartheid. Like, he was like, it's the same feeling, man. And that shook me. I think it shook me because although I had had my run-ins with the neo-Nazis when I went to public school in England and the skinheads and stuff like that, I knew about those guys. I had never really anticipated or understood the depth of helplessness that
Right.
you can feel in a situation like that, and how quickly, and I'm sorry, how recently it was.
Right.
It was a recent thing. This wasn't some many years ago when we were driving horses around. No, this is like cars and people walking that I know that this was real. My father experienced horrible racism in the 50s, and in the 60s, he started carrying a gun because my mother is so light. People were giving him a hard time. We don't often have an opportunity to snap out of our survival mode, to pay attention to the history, to pay attention to the things. And so I was able to, based on, what my parents did and the fact we moved around so much, have this rich, really rich childhood of just traveling, going all over Europe, going all over Africa, traveling in the States. I traveled to a bunch of different states.
Okay.
By the time I came back to the United States for school, I came to Columbia Union College in Tacoma Park, graduated from there, and started teaching at the school and working at the school. And then started teaching in Southeast DC because I thought, this is where the need is.
Right.
I discovered that charter schools can be a scam, and that's a whole conversation, bro. I think you need to do a whole week on that show
right now. So yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's funny that there's nothing. I've come to this conclusion. There is nothing that is good that can also be bad. In fact, most of the things that we see that are good have more propensity for the bad. Like just the internet. The internet is a great tool and it does a lot for us. But for a while, and I don't know if it's still true, the internet was majority pornography.
Yeah, for sure.
and that was the way of making money. That was what a lot of things that were going on the internet. So that was the majority of it. So
I
I
think
know
it still
that,
is. I think it still
right,
is,
I
Brian. I
believe
think
so.
it's yeah.
I think that I've seen a lot about charter schools. My charter school, we seem to be doing our thing, but I've seen in a lot of states, especially I think it was Pennsylvania, where a majority of their charter schools got shut down because of the way people were just using them to make money.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at a school like that in DC.
Okay.
I worked at a school like that in DC. I'm not going to say the name of the school, just out of respect.
Right.
But I had a stroke. I believe one of my colleagues killed himself.
Wow.
That was an interesting story. Another one of my colleagues had a nervous breakdown in the classroom
Right.
in the same year.
Wow.
And I had a stroke driving on 495, bro. So I
Wow.
was like, I can't teach anymore. I'd been teaching in the hood, teaching the people who are my relatives. My grandmother's from here. My grandfather, DC people.
Okay.
My grandmother is a Piscataway. So like literally where DC is located is the center of the Piscataway land. The Piscataway are native people who were native to this area before the colonizers showed up.
Now, this is your maternal or paternal grandmother?
My maternal grandmother.
So your mom,
Mhm.
the descendant of the Piscataway tribe.
My mother is a Piscataway.
She is a Piscataway.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Now,
So I am also Piscataway.
but just to be clear for everybody,
Yeah.
these are indigenous people to this land,
Mm-hmm.
who live where now? Where would you find people who are of that?
There are okay, so the name Piscataway means people of many rivers or of multiple rivers. And again, because of the colonization of this area, this was the first area colonized, this
Right.
East Coast. So from Virginia all the way up to like Baltimore, maybe Pennsylvania, this is the first contact area. So one of the casualties of that first contact were things like languages. There's only one copy of a book with Piscataway language in it. Obviously, all these things are, they're word, they're word of mouth. They're not things that are written down. These are all, oral histories, oral traditions, oral usage of the language. But there's one copy of a catechism, of Catholic catechism, or part of it, written by a guy named Father Andrew White, who was a Jesuit missionary who came to kind of make contact, and he's the only person. So when I say, yeah, this name means that, it could mean that. It's pretty close, but I don't know for sure. Like that's the challenge, right? But where the tribe was located, for example, Rock Creek Park, you're familiar with Rock Creek Park,
Yes.
right? That was a sacred site for my people.
Wow.
That is a sacred site. Between the two rivers, the Potomac and the Anak, these two rivers, now we call them Potomac and the Anacostia.
Right.
They're on either side of this landmass. That was the center of our culture, which is where DC is right now. So like when you come to DC, like you're literally in the middle of, one of the places where we found home. So
is there any respect for the native people? Have there been any celebrations or any certifications or anything to put your people on the map or to recognize them at all?
Well, I think that we're going to get into the history of it, so let's go. In the 1600s, we made contact with these folk. By the 1650s, one of the leaders was like, "Yo," one of the 1660s, he was like, "We got to figure it out." So he started treating with the white people that were coming.
Okay.
By the 1680s, the tribe had been really brutalized, and they were now forced to become Catholic.
Wow.
And so fast forward, well, then of course you had they were moved. They tried to move them out of the area. I believe some legends say they moved them to Piscataway, New Jersey, which is why it's called Piscataway, New Jersey, which would make a lot of sense.
And I used to live near there, so yeah, I know.
Right. So then, again, these are stories, right? They came back down and they re-inhabited the area or moved in. Native people who were not, people didn't want to they didn't want to admit that there were still native people here. So all the efforts have been to make those people as if they did not exist, which
Right.
is a hallmark of a genocide. One of those things was to look at the to count them in the census as free people of color, which is what happened to many of the tribes on the
Right.
East
That's not an
Coast.
isolated incident. That happened.
No, no, no.
Right. And a
Yeah,
lot of
it happened.
no idea about that, but that happened a whole lot.
Right,
Wow.
right, right. So you have currently there are about I've seen this list of about 500 tribes, few of which are federally recognized,
Okay.
few of which are state recognized,
Right.
but are Native American peoples from the East Coast of America, or I mean, not just from the East Coast, that 500 number. Maybe I'd probably say about 200 of those tribes are from here that
Okay.
no one even believes are Native people. Because when you see them, they phenotypically appear as African American, or what we would call African American.
Right. Right.
So, there's been a big movement recently about the indigeneity of African, formerly understood to be African people in America. Um, I think that that's an interesting argument. I also think that it's naive of us to believe that a nation or a continent as big as this one would only have one type of people in it. Um, it's dumb. It doesn't even make sense. If you go to if when you go if you go from Egypt to South Africa to Ghana to Kenya,
Right.
you're
Well,
going to find totally different people, not just different looking people, but I mean, phenotypically, genetically different people. So I, I think that, yeah, the argument that they weren't just slaves, that some of the people who were here, the black people we call black people, were Indians, were Native. I believe it. I absolutely
right.
believe it. It is ridiculous to think otherwise. When we find well, anyway, we get into the long history of it. So anyway, the Piscataway people are here. We're here. In 2004, we were trying to get the government of Maryland, the state government, to recognize us. The governor said, "No, you do not have enough proof." So some enterprising leaders in the groups. There are well, two groups now. At least there were three groups. I'm not sure if all three groups are functioning now, but there are three. There are two distinct groups now of Piscataway people, and one of the leaders, Mervyn Savoy, was very instrumental in suing the state. Well, not really suing, but presenting to the state of Maryland a bunch of evidence, and some of the evidence that she had were birth records, baptismal records, because we were forced to become Catholic. And so the Vatican openly, and the the Archdiocese of Maryland or whatever, I don't know the name of it, but they opened their little information coffers and we're like, here you go, here you go. And so we had to, the irony of it is we had to go to the white people that took our religion and our language to prove to the white people that live on our land that we are who we are. That like how
That's wild. That's insane.
that's
I mean,
crazy. That's crazy.
there's never a shortage of stories that what somebody meant for bad, God meant for good. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Of course, of course.
it's out all the time, and it's sort of insane to see it when it comes out. It's like you were trying to do something to me, and now I'm going to do
Right.
what you did to get what I need. That's
Exactly.
amazing.
Exactly.
Amazing.
And so right now the state of Maryland recognizes I believe it's either three or two, the Piscataway Indian Nation, the Piscataway Conoy tribe and sub-tribes,
Oh,
and the Choptico Band of Piscataway Indians. So I don't know if the Choptico Band is still functioning, and please, no disrespect to anybody. I'm not sure if that's still going on right now.
that's a lot of
But
information that you have, dude. You in these few minutes, there's less than 20 minutes that we've been on here, have expressed more about your history than most people even know about theirs. And yours is one that was attempting to be hidden. Most
yeah,
of ours
for
were
sure.
not, and we have no idea. I knew my mother's parents. I knew her dad for about 2 or 3 years, if that,
Mhm.
if I can say that. I remember sitting on his lap, but you know what I'm saying, that's it. Because he died
Right.
after her mom didn't die until I was maybe 17, 18 years old. But
Mhm.
she had a period of Alzheimer's, so that
Right.
wasn't.
So yeah.
But I knew her growing up, but that's it. I don't know anything about who was before her.
Mhm.
I know maybe some of my grandfather's brothers and stuff like that, but there's no history that I know past that. And I think that a lot of us would know more about it if we knew that it was important or we just knew what it was. Because I'm sure when I look at old pictures, I see that there were Caucasians in the family at some
Yeah.
point. There were probably Indians. I have an aunt on my dad's side that she passed years ago, but I remember seeing her sitting in her rocking chair with long braided hair, the two braids on the side, long gray, and looked as Native American as anybody I had ever seen.
Right.
And I was, is she a Native American? Like, I mean, who knows?
Right.
And when
Yeah.
I
I mean,
hear this, the black people and the Indians were sort of put in the same category from everybody.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, this makes sense. And it also makes sense that if we were over here freely before slavery, that we engaged in relationships and everything with the native people. So it would make sense that
yeah. I mean, I believe that. So when you said about the thing about your family history, you're right. I don't think that there's any person in America who can say, I'm purely blah blah blah. Like unless you literally came last year from you know what I'm saying, like from wherever everybody was, like where the family at, where home is at.
right,
Like unless you do that, you're mixed. Like you are mixed. Now what happens is they made a rule that if you got mixed, it's a spectrum, right? If you're mixed this much,
right.
you're good, you're white people. But if you mix that much, nah, you're not. So
Well,
like
yeah. It's crazy, but it's like if I'm mixing grape juice and apple juice, which I would probably never do. If I just put a little dash of apple juice, this is still grape juice. You know what I'm saying? And to a
Okay,
certain
okay.
point, it's mixed because it might be 50-50. And then if I keep putting enough apple juice in, it's just apple juice.
Right.
You diluted it or you did something to it, but it's apple juice. So I mean that always gets me because as I got older, I started to realize that people who are in love or in relationships are just in these things. They're not always as concerned about race and even culture or ethnicity as we were. At some point,
Hmm.
maybe struggles brought them together, geography, whatever it was, allowed them to be able to get together, to procreate, to get married, to do whatever it is they did and have kids
Hmm.
and form these children who are now supposedly mixed, but we're all human. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
not mixed, like it's not like a cat and a dog, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. I
it's
mean, but like the whole idea, like just the idea of us having a conversation about the differences in the way we look
right.
having absolute meaning in some strange system. It's not real. Like it's all fake. Like
Yeah.
the idea of whiteness. I had one of my ancestors. So my mom's dad his father was a Gullah man from South Carolina,
Okay, right.
and his mother was a Prussian woman from Germany.
Wow.
So yeah, so this was here in DC. Like my uncles and my aunts, they all from like we from like P Street, like down the road. So but the that there is anyone looking at me says you're a black man. If I was described by police or by anyone on the street, I'm a black man.
Right.
Okay, I'll take that's cool. I'll take it. I've walked the motherland. I'm cool with it. I love it. It's great. I enjoy it. Is that all that I am? Yes, in the eyes of a policeman who might beat me in my head, absolutely. That's all. Get him, hit him in the head. Like I'm a big dude, so yeah, and, I'm a big black guy. Like I show up that way. If I go to when I go to Africa, the kids were calling me a brony. Like in Ghana, I was like, oh, I'm not no brony because that means like foreigner or white person. I'm like, no. They were like, because I do not look Ghanaian.
Right.
I don't look typically Ghanaian. Now, if I spoke Tree, they'd be like, oh, your dad was from blah blah blah, and it's normal. Like that's a part of it. But I don't look at face value like a Ghanaian person walking around. It these labels are so weird and they don't make any sense. What you said about love is true. I believe that we are human beings, obviously, and we are attracted to each other, and we have kids, and boom. But the only reason we would call something mixed is if we had a standard and then a standard that was below it. That's the only reason we have that term. That term doesn't exist outside of the binary of black and white.
That's true.
And then, we added brown. They started adding brown. They were like, yeah, okay, native.
Right.
And brown too, yeah. And then, but initially it was like, you're black or you're white.
Right.
And, that's why all the native people were called free people of color. They were basically saying they're black people too.
Wow.
That happened throughout the country. That happened throughout the time that colonization happened. They've been wiping out the identities of people and giving us these false categories that are not even real. White? What's white? There's nobody white.
Right.
There's no white people on the planet. There's a bunch of Europeans living here, but they're not white unless you subscribe to white superiority and white supremacy. Then it makes sense that they're white, because the whites, of course, would be the ones doing these things, and the blacks and everybody else, of course, would be below them. That's the only way the thing works.
Right.
The word has
right. The purity of the Caucasus Mountains and all of that. That's what made that. And the funny thing is, somebody made it up and it stuck. And it was like, okay, we're going to take this.
But why wouldn't it stick? Think about this. Why wouldn't it stick? Bring me your tired, your cold, your huddled masses. You see that on the Statue of Liberty, right? You're from up there. You know what I'm talking about. Guess who came?
Right.
It was a bunch of people who were, but they were never white.
Right.
They were Italians. They were Italian peasants, Irish peasants, Russian peasants, Polish peasants.
Right.
Why were these people leaving their homes? Because in Poland, in Ireland, in Italy, they had nothing. There would be only peasants forever and ever and ever. Even today, they would still be peasants in the way that people think about it.
Right.
In America, but in America, guess what? They're white. Right. Now I can be a governor. Now I can own land. No, this is real. Like, now I can own the land now. I can be in charge of people. I can be a manager instead of just working in a field. Like, this is, the reason the Russian army
they were doing to me.
Huh? What? So say it again.
I can do to somebody what they were doing to me.
Yeah, I don't have to take the brunt of it now.
Right.
Of course. That's what they call the white supremacists. A lot of talking about great replacement theory. Now, this was the great replacement theory. To kill all the native people, to subdue the slaves. There were too many slaves. That dynamic, the balance of numbers was out of control at a certain point. They were like, nah, we need something else. Poor people from there, they're white. Let them be white. And so, we got a little barrier between the upper class. Now, what was the barrier? Education. Education is that barrier, right? If you talk like this, well, of course, darling, I love to talk to you later. When you walk in and talk like that, people think that you know something. If you say, "What are y'all doing down there?" What you mean? They look at you differently. So the education, those societal class things, they still were there, but they conned a bunch of poor people into saying, "Okay, you can change your situation, but not really."
Right. You change You change your location.
You change your location, but and you have another name and you feel good about it, and you'll help me support. You'll keep those other ones down,
right?
But you really aren't going to get opportunity. One or two of you, Giuliani may get something. One or two of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, Cuomo's may get something. Like, we'll give a couple of you guys some things. Right. It's like what they do with black politicians. You give a little bit. Here you go. You just a little sprinkle. You'll be okay.
That's a lot. I mean, you've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure the viewers are amazed with some of this information, because it's not a typical conversation that goes on. It's a conversation that needs to take place a lot more, but it doesn't. And so I'm really glad that you're here to do that. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your love now that you are just doing everywhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Come back. We'll be still talking to Randy Preston.
Brian Watts is the tutor that I didn't know I needed for my academic success. He was really a blessing to me in my continued education. Returning to school after such a long hiatus was really daunting, but he didn't make me feel inadequate about the comprehension challenges that I was having, but rather he was patient with me and he really helped me make sense of what I needed to learn. His attentiveness and follow-up to my progress truly encouraged me to excel, and for that I am forever thankful. Thanks, B.
All right. We are back. So you told me, because at the time I met you, I did not know anybody else who knew you. Now I'm finding out that I know a lot of people You know
Okay.
me. But you told me.
Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's all good
Oh,
stuff.
I mean, I haven't
People are like me.
met them yet. I just know that you know them, so I haven't. I was
Yeah.
like, do the show first, and then I'll ask, and then y'all can.
Okay. Okay.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Then I'll never be back. Just let me come one time.
well. You know what? The funny thing is, this is the second season. Everybody has already been here once, so nobody.
See, you set me up. You set me up.
We're trying to get it straight, and then we'll start pulling people back. But you're an artist, okay?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me in your words, because everybody that's an artist, there's a wide range of what artists are. What kind of artist are you, and what is it that you're doing right now?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've had to define it. And so give me a second to think about it. I'm an artist. I believe in creating awareness shifts.
Okay.
I believe that if you want people to change how they think about something, you must provide them with as many opportunities to encounter that change as they can.
Okay.
And one of those things is through art, I believe. When you look at the art that has come out of the Black experience in America, when you look at the art that's come out of the Native experience, the Hispanic experience in America, or the Latinx, I should say, experience that covers more people, you'll see that art is central to expression, to understanding. As a child, okay, this is okay. As a kid, I always wanted to talk to people. Like I wanted to communicate. I always wanted to share. My father's a pastor, an amazing speaker, an amazing person. My mother is an amazing teacher, and she's also a speaker. My grandfather was a speaker, so I was always talking about getting in front of people and talking to them. But I wanted to talk to as many people as I could. I just thought it was interesting. And so wherever I went, I always would try to pick up little bits of the language, you know, because communication was the best way, I thought, of knowing and being known. As I've gotten older and I begin to understand humanity, I realize that some of us have gifts in certain spaces. I know that I was a teacher for a long time, almost 18 years, more or less. Um, and maybe that was something I was good at, but I don't know that that was where all my gifts were laying. I don't know that's what I was gifted at.
Or that they were even utilizing all of them.
Right. For sure. But I wanted to communicate these ideas all the time. I would write poetry. I would write songs when I was a kid. I had the stroke. They're like, you can't go back and teach. You're gonna die. I was like, what? They're like, yep. If you go back and do this, you're not gonna be with us, bro. It's just you're gonna have another stroke. Because I'd gone back to teach at a private school, and stress levels kept rising. It just was out of control. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I asked the Most High, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I heard 3 words in my ear, write. So I was like, okay. I started writing. Within a month and a half, I was touring with someone, a friend of mine named Kwame Alexander, who just won an Emmy actually this year for his Disney Plus series, The Crossover. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really good.
I
It
haven't
was
seen
based
it.
on a
You heard about it, right?
yeah. It was based on a book, and so this was before the series. So this is 7, 8, almost 10 years ago. But I started traveling with him, and we traveled for 6 years together. I went all over the world. We created a show for kids. So he would talk about his books. I would create songs to fit them in to the different descriptions of his books. He would do a poem. I'd play a song. It was super fun.
So you sang too. You weren't just writing.
Yeah. I sing. I'm the thing I do most, and that people know most about me, is that I sing, and I sing and I play guitar.
Were you singing while you were teaching or before you were
I
teaching?
was. I had a band called Jacob's Night for a while here in Maryland. We toured around. I led worship at a couple of different churches in the area. So I was
This wasn't a new thing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, when I had the stroke, I was like, they were like, you may not be able to sing or play. I was like, are you serious, bro? Like, what? So I would write. I didn't play my guitar for like 2 weeks when I got home, bro. I was like, I don't know how I would deal with it if I couldn't do it.
Right. That's a fear.
Yeah. When I was in, I have aphasia, so I lost some words after the stroke, right? So, and I'm in really good shape for someone who had a stroke. I had
no question.
a cerebellar infarction.
A lot of healthy people. So
yeah, I'm super grateful. But the speech pathologist was like, here's this book. Look at all this stuff. I'm looking at the stuff, and it and there was it was like a cup. I'm like, what is this dumb? a comb, you know, a towel. And then I saw something, I was like, I don't know what that is.
Wow.
I know I use it. I know I just don't know what it is, bro.
You mean your memory of it was gone?
My memory was gone. I had no idea what it was. And she goes, yeah, that's a doorknob. I was like, oh, yo, the most scared I think I've been.
Wow. Yeah.
That was the most scared I'd been up to that point. I was petrified at that point. I just was terrified. And then we had this, then the cool part was we had this long conversation about the stuff I studied for my master's degree, because I studied linguistics, and we had this deep conversation about linguistics, and she was like, you're good. Don't worry about it. You're good. She's like, this stuff will come back. But she goes, yeah, you've lost. She said, I'd say that you won't ever be 100% again.
Wow.
You're probably around 95% right
That's
now.
good. That's good.
She says, and that's great. So I was like, but yeah, all of that, like I wanted to communicate, and then I'm hearing this voice tell me to write. I'm like, what's that? I call my mom. I'm like, yo, I think God talked to me. Like, here you go. So, you know, this is moving me in this direction to create all this art. I've been taking pictures. We'd gone to Ghana with an organization Kwame started. We were building stuff in Ghana, so I've been going back and forth, taking pictures. Did an exhibit on my photography. People were like, oh, and they bought it. I was like, oh,
Wow.
this is dope. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I was at a party at Kwame's house, and one of the people at the party was like, you need to be writing children's books. I was like, children's books? She's like, you should write kids' books. I was like, okay. She was, I'm an agent. I want to be your agent. I was like, okay.
Wow.
She was the director of her agency. So I was like, yeah, she's in charge, like the CEO, person and the head agent, whatever. And she has been instrumental. I've been able to sell 6 books in the last 2 years. And they'll start coming out. I have, in the next 3 years, I'll have a book coming out every year.
Okay.
For the next 3 years, including this year. So we have a book coming out in the fall called How to Sing a Song. And the next year we have a book called First Drum. And, you know, I got a bunch of these kids' books coming out, which is exciting. I'm writing a novel now. I've written a novella during the pandemic. I used my time wisely. I composed a musical based on some of Kwame's work that we performed and debuted at the Kennedy Center. I was in the show as well, but they gave us a 2-week run, which was amazing. They also then took it the next year on a national tour, which was super cool. So our show went all over the country.
Is that what the Emmy is for?
I'm sorry?
Is that what the Emmy is for? Or what did he
No. The Emmy, I wish I'd had something close to that Emmy now. But he won the Emmy for the TV show, The Crossover. The show that we wrote was called Acoustic Rooster's Barnyard Boogie, starring Indigo Bloom, and it's a mashup of some of Kwame's his picture books. He had like 4. I think we put 3 or 4 different picture books together at certain points, but 2 of them were the main ones. But it's a story about a Black girl who has a loving family. A mother and a father love each other, and they love her and support her.
Wow.
And she has a bout of extreme stage fright, and she falls asleep. And when she wakes up, she's in the land of that is in the book that's her favorite. So there's a book that she reads every night, and she wakes up and she's around this band, Acoustic Rooster, but all the people look suspiciously like her parents and her friends. But in this dream, she's confronted with dealing with the idea of being afraid when you get on stage fright. And so, you know, this is a pivotal thing. I don't want to spoil it.
Right.
I mean, it's a kid's show. It's a kid's show, so it's pretty obvious what happens in the end. But
I'm about to go get that too, because I'm like, that sounds.
It's super fun. Yeah, it's super fun, man. We're trying to. I have all the music. I wrote 25 songs. 27 songs, I think, for the show. And we have 9 different genres in the music. I had to put a little go-go in there. I have some hip hop in there. It's cool, man.
You're from here. You gotta have go-go.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. It's legit. And all the actors who were from DC were like, "Oh, you like this one? This is good."
Right.
I was excited, man. I got some amazing musicians to work on the project with me. I've been grateful, man. So yeah, I'm be releasing the soundtrack for that hopefully in the next couple of months.
Okay.
If I can do that. I also work with a company, and I don't want to miss this. I'm working with a company called WRI, and this is my latest I'm moving on my directions there. I've written songs for them. I'm writing a kids book for them. But this company does restoration work all over the world, and so
Okay.
they'll do things like reforesting, replanting forests, restoring soil, restoring the coral reefs.
Right.
They're doing all this work in, 20 plus countries throughout the planet, and they're located here in DC. I was like, how are you located in DC? And I don't even know y'all are here. Like, let's do something here. So we're working on bringing people from the conservation community into communication with this company because of their breadth of resources. As far as, well, I shouldn't say resources, but they have access to people with resources. That's
Right.
what they do. They've been there for 20 some years doing this amazing work. And one of my goals with them is to serve in an artistic fashion to provide awareness of what they're doing. So
Okay.
those are the projects that I'm working on right now. I'm also writing another musical for, it's based on, you should check this out. Love Them First is an amazing documentary. I'd recommend all your viewers watch it. It's about a teachers in North Minneapolis,
Okay.
which is the neighborhood George Floyd died in. Um, they are amazing teachers, and we've been tasked to adapt this documentary that won awards into a Broadway musical. So that's one of the big projects I'm loving. I think I've written 26 or 27 songs for that one too.
Okay.
We're still in the process of finishing it, but hopefully in the next year or so we'll see a debut of that, which will be amazing. But as an artist, I'm trying to do everything I can to share the message that I have
Right.
because I want to communicate with people. I've always wanted to do that. I want to talk to as many people as I went and lived in France. I learned French. So I can talk to people. Like and so I think through art, the idea is I can reach someone who doesn't even speak my language with a good song.
That's right.
I can reach someone who doesn't really, who won't be able to read the text, but can see a beautiful picture and get with it. Be like,
Right.
yo, that's beautiful. I
Exactly.
think that art, I want to be an artist who promotes beauty
Okay.
instead of the shocking. I think art has gone in this, there's a big pendulum swing all the time with anything, any movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea was at a certain point in the 80s and 90s was like, the grotesque, the scary, the profane, the crude. Those are things that will shock people. I'm like, what happened to pretty? Like, something can be pretty, man. Can we just have a beautiful day? I love that. I love the like the little TikTok challenge about a couple of years ago. The dudes were frolicking. I was like, let's get that. Like, let's frolic. Like, let's enjoy the sun.
Right.
Let's go in the forest and be like, wow, the trees are amazing. Let's do that.
Right.
And I think that through art, we can begin to pull people into that space. When you write a good story about a forest, when you write a great story, you tell kids about, loving their families, paying attention, obeying your parents, and not saying obey your parents, but showing through a series of actions, some consequences in a story. Story narrative is what shifts awareness. And
That's
my goal in life is to shift people's awareness from believing that they have to be commercial. Children. I met a kid at a really exclusive school in Hollywood, or no, in Beverly Hills, somewhere in Malibu. I don't remember where it was, but all the guards, all the people in the thing had guns and stuff.
Wow.
And I talked to one of the little girls, and her told me her name was Suri, and I was like, that's a really, I haven't really heard. I've heard of one person with that name. She smiled and she's loud because I'm gonna go play soccer now. I was like, all right, take it easy. And it was Tom Cruise's kid. Like it was that school, and I was like, oh, okay. I asked one of the girls, what do you want to do when you grow up? She said, I want to be famous.
Wow.
And it broke my heart
Wow.
because this is all they've seen. This is what art has taught them.
And there's no passion to be famous.
No.
Really, not for real.
Nah, man. So hopefully as an artist, I can help to shift awareness away from destructive, manipulative, toxic behaviors, toxic thought processes. I'm sure I have my own that I'm working through.
Right.
And I think we all need to be healing from those. But the goal of my art is to create beautiful things that
Okay.
tell a beautiful message and give a beautiful story so that people can take something beautiful away with them. Why
Well, I'm
not?
gonna join you in that hope that continues to happen. Dude, I'm so glad you came through, man. Is there any place that people can go to find out what's going on with you and to hear?
Yeah. I need to update it desperately, but I have some of my stuff on randypreston.com.
Okay.
I have an Instagram account. It's Randy's Art and Stuff. Art and Stuff. It's not N, it's Art and Stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on Facebook, I'm Randy Preston. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, check him out. I mean, I've had a great time today. I'm sure you enjoyed this as well. And Randy, I really thank you for coming out, man. I mean, I have learned a lot. I'm interested in a lot of stuff you're doing. I'm sure we will stay in touch and
Thank you.
possibly do some stuff together. So,
Yeah, man.
hey, thanks a lot and coming
And
on, positive guy.
I just want to say, and I want to say, I appreciate this platform. I appreciate the work you're doing. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here and share some of the stuff that's in my brain, bro. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No problem. No
Thank
problem.
you. Keep doing this, man. This is necessary. This helps us.
All right, appreciate it. I'll
All right,
definitely do that, no doubt. All right, y'all. That was Randy Preston. I'm like I said, I had a great time. Hopefully, y'all will tune in on the next show. Keep watching. If you haven't seen a lot of the episodes, they're all here on YouTube. So check them out. Subscribe, like, and all that regular stuff that people always tell you on their podcast or whatever. I will see you again next time. It's Brian J.T. Watt signing off. Have a great one, and we will see you later.